Okay, friends and neighbors, another auction find. A dirty, crusty, kinda rusty Peavey, probably from the 70s. It had a 3-prong plug on it, but it's only got a 2-prong power cord. So I'm sure somebody just decided to fix that on their own, not thinking to just put a 2-prong power plug back on it, but we're going to change this cord anyway. This one's a weird symptom. I figured it's an old Peavey, it's going to work, right? Because that's how life seems to be to me. But turn it on, you get the big old thump like you do with a solid stator. Nothing through the preamp, but we got a whine that when I do my mid-range shift, I got a vintage synthesizer here. Turn it up so you can hear it. So this is supposed to be a bass amplifier, not a synthesizer. So this is going to need some help. Again, it's quite vintage, and with quite vintage things and oscillations and things like that. Oscillations to me is probably a shorted and or failing or severely leaking capacitor, more than likely. Just a stab in the dark, but we'll open this up and see what we see. Well, the surprises never cease. Number one, that is a 3-wire cord. They hid the little green groundy cord like in between the other two. It looks like a 2-conductor, but it's not. It is a 3-conductor. So that's one less thing we have to do. That's kind of cool. And there's not a lot here. That's probably a good thing. 2 big old RCA transistors here. Let's see what numbers are on them. 62792 and 7903, I think. Yeah, 7903. So 62792. Okay, so they're both the same polarity. This is like old school, like the Standell. So this isn't like the, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so we got that. Our filter caps are 2200 microfarad 50 volt. I don't know that I have axial version, but I might have radial versions of that, and we can make something happen with that. There's really not a ton to this circuit, is there? A recap on this wouldn't even take that long. 100 watt bass amp. Hey, is what it is. Let's get cracking. Let's see. So it looks like from the power cord we do go through the thermal overload majig and then to the front. So we got to pull the knobs off and bring the board out to service that. Okay, so on a scale from 1 to, I hope I never have to do this again, taking this board out of the chassis is about a 3. It's really not that bad. The jacks on either end actually unplug. That unplugs. The LED unplugs. And you have to take the front panel off, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nuts and 2 screws that hold this down. Not too bad. And I have caps. They were in my stash of junk. They're almost always like the standard Peavey values. Peavey has like values they use all the time in amplifiers. 2.2, 22, 47, and 100. So I have them. Yay! And then there were new capacitors. Haven't turned it on yet. Don't know if anything's going to explode. Yay! Okay, so it's still a synthesizer. How fun. Okay, so in fishing around, we got a couple of op amps here. I'm fairly certain they're op amps. It's tricky to read the numbers, but anyway, pulling this one, which is TL074, I believe, 074. That one stops the whining and whistling. Pulling that one doesn't. Now, it isn't until you get down here. I mean, this circuit's working from well, on your dial it's going to be from right to left. So signal comes in here, goes through there, comes down to here, and by this point it's whining. So it's either whining after this chip or at this chip. And both these op amps are like really rusty crusty. They're not looking pretty. I tried to beep through some other stuff that seemed to be okay. I want to see if that's a 50-cent chip or if it's, just laying around in my bin of crap or something. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. The main B plus and B minus voltages here on this about 36ish volts, something like that. So 36 volts on one side of this resistor and like 7 or 8 on the other side, 7, 8, something like that. And then 36 volts on the side of this resistor and nothing on the other side. So this Rockwood branded 5-watt 1K resistor is open. So yay. The other thing that kind of sucks is the pins on that one double op amp are kind of rusty crusty and they're falling off. So some people want like $7, $8, $9 for that. I think I found a compatible op amp out of another Peavey. Same pin out, should work fine. Yeah, let's go after that resistor. Okay kids, so I looked in my parts bin and I didn't have a 1K, so I went salvaging through some blown up stuff that came from another auction, and not only did I find the 1K resistor, a good one, but I also found the TL074CN chip, exactly what belongs in here, and this one is less crusty and the stuff isn't falling off. So doing that has now restored our positive and negative voltages to the preamp circuit, because we had that on the power amp circuit before. So now it wants to make noises. Yay. Let's listen, let's check the treble and stuff. I know we're freewheeling it here on the camera. Yeah, high works. Yeah, our mid shift works okay. Parametric's got a little bit of a crusty crackle in it. And bass seems to work. Yeah. So we're back to operational now. That's good. This thing's really going to need a bath, but after it gets a bath, I think it's going to be a fine amp. See, this stuff isn't necessarily rocket surgery. The cap job was just kind of something I wanted to do anyway because, number one, I had the parts, and number two, it's 42 years old. The amplifier was made in 1979. It says November 1979. So it's an old dog. So cap job was not a bad idea. And if you remember when we've done some other amps like the Earth that we did for a customer a while back, even though the amp worked before, the cap job sort of revitalized it and gave it a bit more punch and sound and power. So it felt better. So in this case, this amplifier probably didn't need this chip until the legs were falling off the other one. It needed this resistor for certain. These two actually get kind of toasty, but those are the rails for the preamp circuit, and I'm gonna need the pots cleaned. I think that's about it. Pretty straightforward. A little bit of a time chewer though, because I had to weasel my way around through the circuit. I did this without a schematic. The schematic for this is probably available. Peavey schematics are usually easy enough to get, but when I looked up the data sheet for that, the center pin there, so the middle pins there are supposed to have the plus and minus voltages, and I only had one. And I found that I had, like, I don't know, 8 volts over here. So I'm like, well, off this 1K resistor I get 8 volts. Well, that's probably the power supply for the preamp. So here's the other 1K. Well, where's the 8 volts over here? Where is it? It's not there. Well, there you go. There's your problem.